Welcome into a brand new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Amanda Guerra alongside DJ Taylor. We are matching today. We got the Army green on.
Very Army green of us.
And then you get Mike McDonald over there in classic blue. Guys, it was a wild Thursday night, the first half of the Sweet 16. The first part of the Elite Eight is set. We're going to get the second half of the Sweet 16 tonight. I would grade like the first two games yesterday. What, like an A, and the second two games?
For sure.
Elite ball,
C plus, yeah.
NCAA tournament games. No, they're all A plus because it's college basketball.
Okay.
Number one, and I refuse to bend on that whatsoever. But the first two games were just off the charts good. Sweet 16 games. Exactly. I mean, it's the best way to start off the Sweet 16.
It was. You're taking a look at the matchups that we get coming up tonight over in the East. Rick Pitino, the Johnnies, taking on #1 overall seed Duke. A lot of hot matchups tonight, and we're going to dive into them. So let's start. We're going to go in order of the games. Let's start with St. John's going up against the #1 overall seed Duke. It tops off at 7-10. First head-to-head matchups between these teams in a long time, more than 10 years. Where are you starting with looking at this game?
Well, I'm starting with Cameron Boozer, the National Player of the Year, right? With this St. John's defense, he is obviously the key. How can Duke find ways to stifle Cameron Boozer? He has been not only one of the most productive players in college basketball all season long, he has also been the most consistent, all right? This guy is a guy who I've deemed as not having had a bad game all season long. When you look at the way that Duke creates offense, it all starts with Cameron Boozer and the way that when they feed him, whether he's in the trail position and he's coming back in the trail, whether he's in the mid-post area and they feed him and they allow him to play off of that action. He's even a guy who sometimes can handle the ball on a ball screen. He can be the ball screen setter and roll. St. John's defense today all begins with how they handle and they make things difficult for Cameron Boozer.
Yeah, I think, and you and I were even talking about this off camera, if Duke's can break the press, because that's what St. John's, their offense and their defense is all about full court pressure. And that's how they win games. That's how they just muck everything up and make it exhausting and chaotic. Coach Pitino wants complete and total chaos intensity for 40 minutes. So if Duke breaks the press, which I think it's not just going to come down to the players, I think John Shire is going to have to call multiple different press break options throughout the course of the game. Duke could really dominate St. John's on the interior. This could be a game, if the press is broken, or Cameron Boozer makes 15 to 20 free throws and has 30 points. And you're going to look at the box score at the end of the 40 minutes and be like, he had 30? Oh, yes, because he made 15 to 17 free throws.
Right.
It's totally different styles. It is highly efficient offense versus chaotic defense. I just think Duke is their talent level, their efficiency. I don't think there's enough. If it slows down at all, St. John's is in trouble, and it just can't for them. So I really just like Duke here in this matchup. So
you mentioned speed of the game. Let me ask you this: if St. John's and Rick Pitino, what is the game plan to try to stop Duke in this position? As Mike mentioned, they got to keep up the tempo. In your opinion, if they pull off the upset, how do they make it happen?
Well, they've got to force turnovers, right? We obviously are looking at Caleb Foster being questionable coming into this game. Will he play? Will he not? That puts a lot of pressure on a guy like Caden Boozer, who has had to step up and take over that primary guard position. He's had to be the primary ball handler for Duke. The thing for a guy like Caden Boozer is, and he's been really good since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, is he hasn't seen pressure like this St. John team is going to apply pressure, right? This is a different style of basketball the freshman is going to see today than he's seen all season long, right? Throughout the past few days, Coach Shire has done his very best to prep Caden Boozer for what he's about to see. They've walked through what St. John done. They've shown film of what St. John's has done. They've even tried to prep it in practice. But there's nothing like being out there with it in a real game-like scenario where that pressure and that heat is going to be different. If you are St. John's, the best way to limit Boozer is to make it difficult for him to get touches and receive the basketball by pressuring that backcourt of guys like Caden Boozer, like guys like Isaiah Evans, turning them over and going the other way. If you recall, MOD, the last time Rick Pitino won a national titles with the Louisville Cardinals, that was Peyton Sieva, that was Russ Smith and those guys. And what were they great at? They were great at the run and jump, and they were great at turning you over and playing out in the open court.
I'm just going to say something because I'm not this typical narrative guy. I'd rather talk about the X's and O's, but if the game is close, and it's a one-possession game, everybody's going to be thinking about the same thing. They're going to be they're going to be thinking about the Patino.
Apparently, maybe not. They're all
shot.
going to be.
Yeah.
No.
Mike will be thinking about something.
I'm such an old guy compared to you. I'm thinking about the Leitner shot against
you're thinking
Patino,
about the all-time,
of where you've got Duke versus Patino.
True that.
Like everybody on social media, that's all everybody's going to talk about. It should be. It's going to be a wild game. But I think the number 2. I think Duke. If they're under 10 turnovers, I think they win this game. But that magic number, I think, is 10, right? If it's over 10, that's going to be a 1 or 2 possession game. That means St. John's just created chaos, and they are the smartest thing that you said in that breakdown, VJ, was the fact about Caden Boozer, because Patino is going to throw everything at him. Not like, hey, we're going to try to stop him. No. They're going to try to just completely destroy his confidence in the full court press.
Absolutely.
He's a huge key in this game.
No question.
You have me kind of on the fence here because you're giving me a reason to believe that St. John's can pull this upset if they can get those turnovers. But then you said if they do slow down, Duke may run away with it. It's going to be very interesting. That is the first game up tonight. After that, we get 4-seed Alabama going up against the 1-seed in Michigan. Last night was a great night for the Big Ten. Maybe Michigan can continue that. Both of these teams, so high scoring. They're coming off more than 90-point games, both of them. MOD, we'll start with you on this one.
This could be 120 to 100 in this matchup.
That might be conservative.
And, I know. So I always like to think is if we're watching a game and you're watching a team from a fan's perspective, is there a comparison note? Does Alabama compare to anybody that Michigan's played in? And yes, quite recently, when they beat St. Louis by over 20, that was that's a really good comparison game. St. Louis plays eerily similar to Alabama in terms of tempo, pace, where they spray it out, 5 out, and it's got 3-point shooters all over the floor. That game was tight in the first half, Michigan versus St. Louis. And then in the second half, Michigan completely dominated St. Louis with the size, the physicality. They were outrunning that St. Louis team that loves to play up tempo. This is a bad matchup for Alabama. Number one, Alabama is going to score, but I do not think that they're going to have any answer for the interior size of Michigan, both offensive rebounds, second chance opportunities, them in transition. They've got the bigger, more athletic, and more talented wings. It's going to be a difficult task for Alabama to slow down Michigan, who right now, they're the second best team in college basketball behind Arizona.
Absolutely. The physicality and size of Michigan is going to cause Alabama so much trouble. The key stat I'm watching in this game is the 3-point margin, all right? Can Alabama create a 3-point margin that is significant enough to make up for what they're going to lose on the glass, all right? They're going to lose the 2-point battle. That's going to happen. You can concede that right now. They will not win the 2-point battle against Michigan. But can Alabama make 15, 16, 17 threes? They made 19 threes in their round of 32 win. If they can have a 3-point margin that is 30 points or so, that's the only way I can see Alabama staying in this game, because as MOD mentioned, the physicality inside is going to be a problem, all right? 2 freshmen are going to be relied upon to go up against Marez Johnson, Adai Mara, and Yaxel Lindenborg. That's trouble for them, okay? That's just hard for them to deal with inside. The only way that Alabama can keep this close is if they can make those shots from the outside.
Well, the really horrible thing about playing Michigan is that they too can also make
questions.
threes. But that is like, everybody likes to compare like Michigan and Arizona.
Right.
One of the primary differences is Michigan, they absolutely, they'll take 20 threes in a game.
Yeah.
You know, Arizona may take 7, 8 threes. Yeah. And so if you're saying it's going to be a shootout, I still could lean towards Michigan because they're not as good, but they're close to what Alabama can do from the 3-point line.
If Namari Burnett and Elliot Cadeau are going to go 6 for 10 from the 3-point line like they did against St. Louis, it's lights out. You have no chance. You have no chance.
I will say Alabama, this season, 5th most threes made in D1 history. So we'll see if they can keep up with the Wolverines. That is the first 2 games. Let's go to the later slate here, and we get UConn going up against Michigan State. I think this game is so interesting. I mean, you would think with the coaches, with Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley, that this would be a chess match. And I was listening to someone this morning who said, actually, I think the coaches, because they are so good, cancel each other out. And it's really going to come down to player performance, the depth of these rosters. MOD, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, it's going to be a really good game, number one. I can't wait for that. And you're really smart, AG, because you transition us from a game that, you know, could have 300 points to a really tight ball game. Both these defenses are elites. But they do it in different ways. Michigan State, heavy rim protection. Like, you're not getting layups, you're not getting alley-oops, you're not getting dunks. UConn likes to force the drive and kick. They want you taking long contested threes or long twos in those closeouts. That's the way they really like to play defense. The major issue for Michigan State in this game is taking care of the ball. The third worst turnover rate in the Big Ten. However, UConn is not themselves right now. I'm not saying that UConn's playing poorly. What I'm saying is Silas Demery still seems pretty banged up, BJ.
Right.
And I think even a UConn fan would agree that Solo Ball isn't playing like the Solo Ball that we know, who's just fantastic in the backcourt. The backcourt matchup, to me, it leans Michigan State. They want to get up and run. I'm a Jeremy Fears apologist, and I think the way that he's playing at an exceptionally high level, breaking that NCAA tournament assist, that Magic Johnson record, this is a game where Sparty could not only outrun UConn, but maybe could out-physical them as well.
Yeah, and I believe this guy you see on the screen is going to be the real difference in the game, all right? When you look at what UConn and what their backcourt has been able to produce, this is a backcourt that produced 4 points outside of Braylon Mullins in their round of 32 victory. That's just not going to be enough against Michigan State, all right? Especially when you're going up against one of the best point guards in the country in Jeremy Fears and what he possesses and what he brings to the table. Not only does he create opportunities for himself, he's going to create opportunities for Jackson Kohler. He's going to create opportunities in ball screens for Carson Cooper. And then if he gets out on the break, he has the best athlete in college basketball in Cohen Carr.
And he's shooting the ball well right now, too.
And he's shooting the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have not seen Cohen Carr play, number 55 for Michigan State, he is a highlight reel waiting to happen. I am talking about a sensational talent out on the break, head up near the rim style finishes. As MOD mentioned, UConn has got to make sure that they take care of the basketball, because if they do not, Michigan State gets out and runs, they're going to finish and they're going to convert out on the break.
Let's go to that game, by the way, starts around 9:45. We are on the East Coast, and after 10 o'clock at 10:10, we get our final game of the Sweet 16. Tennessee going up against 2-seed Iowa State. Everybody wants to know about Joshua Jefferson. He is going to be a game-time decision for Iowa State. They were able to get past Kentucky without him. BJ, do they need him in order to get this win?
I don't believe they need him, but obviously his addition, even if he's 75%, is extremely significant for an Iowa State club who has been out without their best player since the ankle injury. I mean, when you look at the numbers with him right there, I know it may be hard to understand at home, but a drop-off of about 10 points of when he's on the court from when he's off the court in terms of their offensive rating is absolutely significant, all right? That changes, that's a significant difference just for people watching at home. His ability to not only be an offensive catalyst, but the way that he can initiate things, because he's a ball handler, almost a point forward relief guy for Tamin Lipsey in ways. He is their backup-ish point guard behind Tamin Lipsey. If Tamin Lipsey's not initiating, Joshua Jefferson is kind of the guy getting the offense flowing. I know he's going to probably try to give it a go. I would expect him to try. But for a guy with an ankle injury, being that so recent, he won't be 100%. He's going to be hobbled a little bit. The only saving grace for Tennessee is this. If Tennessee can get on the old boards, if they can create second chance opportunities, which they're one of the best at in college basketball, that gives them a chance to stay in this game to create extra chance opportunities. But Tamin Lipsey, Killian Torrey, these guys in the backcourt are going to heat them up. They're going to look to force turns. They do it at an extremely high rate, forced 20 turns against Kentucky, just completely took Mark Pope's group out of rhythm. I expect Iowa State to pull away because of their defense.
Yeah, the path to victory for Tennessee is on the offensive glass. As they don't have this high-powered offense. It's an incredible defense. But in the last 2 months, Tennessee has had the best offensive rebounding rate in the country.
Right.
The issue for Tennessee is they turn it over too much. So they're in the bottom 3 of the SEC in offensive turnover rate. Just means that they cough it up way too much. So Jacoby Gillespie's got to play like a perfect game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like he's got to play really good. No, he has to play a perfect game.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee is 4th in the nation in defensive turnover and forcing defensive turnovers. And their whole defense is comprised of stopping the backcourt and being in gap help and gap integrity and passing lanes and deflections. I think Iowa State, even without Joshua Jefferson, is a terrible matchup for Tennessee. I like Iowa State in this game.
Let me ask you guys this. So far, we are pretty chalky here. We had 2 upsets last night. If you had to pull an upset or 2 upsets for tonight, where are you leaning? Either one of you.
I would have to start with St. John's. I think the St. John's Duke game is going to be close because Duke is not going to run away from them offensively. So it's going to be tight in that regard. If I had to choose one of the upsets from the lower seeds, I would probably start with St. John's.
Okay.
I mean, is Michigan State a big upset over UConn? I mean, not really, right? You know, you're kind of they're both top 5 seeds. But yeah, if you're forcing me, which I can't stand these questions, Yeah.
And you tell us every time, and we're still going to ask.
And I still don't like it. Yeah, it is St. John's. If the chaos is created, they are good enough in that full court press to beat not just Duke, but anybody in college basketball.
Okay, there you go. Watch out for the Johnnies tonight in the second half of the Sweet 16, getting underway just after 7 o'clock, but you got to stay up late for that late one there tonight. You can watch them on CBS or stream them on Paramount+.
Welcome into a fresh new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jordan Giorgio. The madness continues, and it did not disappoint last night either. A look at those teams from the Sweet 16 now advancing to the Elite Eight. So by the time the final buzzer sounds tonight, though, the NCAA men's basketball tournament field will officially be down to the Elite Eight. Until then, let's go ahead and get some game predictions because we have 4 more games on tap tonight presented by Freshpet Healthy Food, fresh from the fridge. To help us predict some of these outcomes, Mackenzie Brooks from SportsLine joins us. Let's go ahead and begin, though, with this one. Top left-hand side of your screen, arguably maybe the most compelling matchup in this round.
I mean, controversial. I'm getting attacked on the internet for picking the #1 overall seed.
God forbid.
Yep.
What a concept. Yeah.
What a concept. Yeah, we do like Duke in this game. We have them projected to win this game by 9-10 points here. 79-70 is our projected score. I know Caleb Foster right now is the elephant in the room. Yes, he improves your team in a model, in a sim. It's not enough of an impact. He's not this like high volume shooter type of situation. What he does do for this team is he plays clean basketball, right? So turnovers is something this team has struggled with in his absence. So having him back, that would be the biggest thing that happens if Foster is to play here. But again, this is still a metrics darling team. Like, this is a team that we still have with a 2-point differential, and that being the biggest advantage against St. John's. We're just not that high on this St. John's team. Like, I know they're a fun story and they're a fun program, but we weren't high on Kansas. So when you're barely beating Kansas, we don't think it's not impressing us by any means. They're shooting 36% from the field. They don't shoot as well on neutral and road sites. Home and road splits and neutral splits are so key when it comes to basketball and this tournament. So as fun as the St. John's story is, I don't know why it's so crazy for me to think that the #1 overall seed is going to win this game.
It's fair, and it's not like you're hating against it. You're just bringing the facts. That's what she does. That one, by the way, tips off tonight on CBS at 7:10 Eastern time from our nation's capital. Let's go ahead and get to our next matchup that features 2 coaches that have that Final Four experience, and of course, that's what they have their eyes on. What is SportsLine expecting in this one between Alabama and Michigan?
A bit of a closer game than most. 87-83. We have Alabama losing by just 5 points here, and you have to realize that the turnover margin for Alabama is where they're winning. +2 in the turnover margin is the projection. Michigan has been, turning the ball over more than their opponents in their last 4 games, but even back to like late February, this has been a problem for them. So that's the one weak side for this Michigan team that's allowing Alabama to stay in the picture. Now, when it comes to 2-point differential, when it comes to rebounding differential, that's where Michigan has Alabama's hand. So essentially size, right? The interior, that's obviously going to be the downfall for this Alabama team. Alabama's way of winning this game is shooting well from deep, something they can do. Michigan can be streaky from deep, so they can hope to catch them on a poor night. Now, you're looking at that Michigan team. They comp very similarly to Florida, and Alabama went 0-5 against Florida in their past 5 games, so take that for what you will. This is a Florida team that can also actually make their 3-pointers. So that's a scary situation for Bama, but again, the 3-point shooting from this team is what would keep them in the game.
All right, 7:35 Eastern time from Chicago. Now the second contest at Capital One Arena in D.C., yet another heavyweight showdown between UConn and Michigan State. Why is SportsLine, though, so high on the Huskies?
Because we're looking at the teams on the court right now and not the blue blood, their history, the coaches. Like, this is an analytical darling, UConn versus Tom Izzo in March, right? That's what you're looking at here. Now, Michigan State, and I give them their flowers for this, shot really, really well from deep their past few games. 50% versus North Dakota State, 42% versus Louisville. Sometimes it feels unsustainably high, and there's naturally going to be a regression to the mean, especially against a UConn team with a really awesome 3-point defense, allowing just 28% on neutral and road games. So again, those home and road splits, 2-point differential home and road splits is also why we like UConn so much compared to this Michigan State team. But again, what version of UConn are we getting? Are we getting the version of them the last month of the regular season, which didn't look great, or are we going to get peak UConn here? So if we get peak UConn, we do like them here. We like them to win this game by 2. But Tom Izzo and March, it's hard to fade them.
Well, I'm all here for a close one, that's for sure. Lastly, I did take a peek at this one, and I'm all here for it. The Crew is high on Iowa State in this next matchup. I actually had them
logos.
go. I know, I love this. It matches your yellow.
Yes,
I love
happy
it.
Easter.
But I have Iowa State going the distance as well in my bracket. But why is the Crew so high on them advancing to the Elite Eight?
So it's everything outside the rebounding, and it's been really popular for people to like Tennessee to at least keep this game close with Iowa State. You're seeing the public really like that, and again, it's the rebounding margin, right? That is the one thing in Tennessee's favor right now. No Joshua Jefferson potentially. That obviously makes the rebounding margin for Tennessee even better. But you look at everything else for Iowa State. It becomes the turnover margin. It becomes the 2-point percentage, the 3-point percentage. Like all of those key metrics are going in Iowa State's favor, so that is going to negate the one advantage that you're seeing for Tennessee here. So that's why we like them. You also look at Tennessee, one of their stars is a freshman. You saw him get a little shaky, start turning the ball over in the end of the last round here. So as long as everyone's playing cool, calm, and collected, they'll stay in this game. But when some of your stars are young, again, that starts to show up in the regionals.
Sounds good to me. All right, so Iowa State on their way to the Elite Eight. That would be fun. Mackenzie Brooks joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. You can get more from Mackenzie and SportsLine on Inside the Lines.
Yes,
Thanks so
ma'am.
much, Mackenzie. Appreciate you joining us. You can scan that QR code on your screen to get all the best projections, the best prices, and all the best bets. We're back here on CBS Sports HQ. Our coverage of March Madness continues with some epic matchups from Chicago tonight. You see Alabama and Michigan early in the window, and then Tennessee and Iowa State. For much more on what to expect, we go ahead and say hello to Isaac Trotter, who is live from Chicago for us. Isaac, it's so great to see you. Thanks for being with us. I want to begin with Michigan, who has really looked the part of a 1 seed through the first 2 rounds of this tournament. But what has stood out to you about the way they've handled this stage so far?
Yeah, they're unafraid. I talked to them yesterday as they're preparing for this moment, and they realize that, they're 4 wins away from winning a national title, and that's not lost on them in a moment like this. But at the same time, like the way that they're playing, the way that they're stacking good days, day after day after day, game after game after game, translates. And I think that gives Dusty May a lot of confidence heading into tonight against an Alabama team that's extremely capable of beating them if they play their best. But we know the drill with Michigan. When they make shots, they're unbeatable from 3. Like when they're shooting over 33% from 3-point range, they do not lose many basketball games because they're so dominant on the paint. They're so dominant at the rim defensively, and they have just terrific size. And if they do what they do, I think they'll find a way to advance to the Elite Eight.
Well, they'll be facing an Alabama squad whose offense is also firing on all cylinders entering the Sweet 16. How sustainable, though, is that level of pace against some higher level competition like the Wolverines?
Yeah, playing Texas Tech's defense and playing Michigan's defense is 2 vastly different type of conversations. But I think we know against a Nate Oates offense, like you're just going to generate a ton of corner threes. That's what Alabama does night after night after night. That's what they need. But I also think tonight is really more about their defense. And without Aiden Holloway, they've really shifted to a 3-big lineup a little bit. Amari Allen now plays the 3. London Jemison will play a little bit more of the 4 with Taylor Bolbolin mixing in. And then they have Aiden Sherrill at the 5. That's the biggest Alabama gets. You need that against Michigan's like supersized front line. And their net rating has been phenomenal. 99th percentile nationally in CB Analytics with those 3 guys on the floor. So it kind of hints at you that, hey, this new version of Alabama, we get great shooting because we have awesome guards like LeBaron Philon and Latrell Wrightsell. But now we have a little bit of extra wing size. We're able to get after it on the boards a little bit better. And earlier in the season, Alabama just got murdered, like dump trucked on the glass by teams like Purdue, teams like Gonzaga, teams like Arizona, who had like those double big lineups. Michigan certainly has that tonight with Ade Mar and Rez Johnson. But Nate Oates is confident that this new lineup might help them have a few more answers, right, in the problem-solving mess that Michigan kind of creates.
7:35 tip-off for that one. Let's get to the second matchup from Chicago, Tennessee and Iowa State. I want to zero in on Vols Jacoby Gillespie, though, here, taking that same recipe he used with Maryland, now doing it again with Tennessee. What makes his impact so valuable in tournament play?
Yeah, you could argue he's the most valuable player in the country. Like what he does for his team is very much unlike what anybody else can do. And I love how he can toggle on or off the ball. I think tonight is a big opportunity for him to play off the ball and try to hurt Iowa State as a shooter, right? Like there's so many times where against this Iowa State trapping defense, they're very vulnerable to maybe some corner threes or some off-ball actions that could open up shooters. I think Gillespie, who usually plays point guard, could pivot and show his versatility tonight moving off the ball. And I think they just need him to make shots and clear and kind of get them rolling early. And that's the big focus for me, those first 10 minutes. Because like when Iowa State, when you play them, like it is a pain. It is a pain, and it's really hard to prepare for the type of pressure and execution defensively that TJ Otzelberger's group can bring. And if Gillespie is able to make a couple shots off the ball early, kind of settle his team in and go, I think that would be huge because, I mean, we all know Nate Ament looks a little banged up right now. And so there's even more on Jacoby Gillespie's plate, and he has to play his A-plus game tonight to beat Iowa State.
Pressure is definitely on. As for Iowa State, Joshua Jefferson, as we know, a game-time decision dealing with an ankle injury. Just how much could his availability shift this matchup?
Yeah, it's a big one. He's arguably the best passing big man in all of college basketball. No player 6'9" or taller averages more assists than Joshua Jefferson this year. So I talked to him yesterday in the locker room. He said that it will be his decision whether he plays or does not play tonight. Now, he was in a walking boot that just got taken off the walking boot. And yeah, as you can see here, the net ratings when he's on or off the floor. I love advanced analytics, so this is right up my alley. And plus 15 or plus 9 when he's on the floor, minus 5 when he's off. That's a drastic difference, as big as almost any player in college basketball. But I just don't think he's going to play. He just, yesterday in the open practice, we got 15 minutes to see him. He wasn't moving that well. You know, he's not really putting a lot of pressure on that foot. I think he's more optimistic that if Iowa State wins tonight, with those extra few days, he could be able to play on Sunday against the Michigan-Alabama winner. But if he doesn't go tonight, I think Tennessee has a real chance to pull the slight upset.
Wow, some incredible insight from you, Isaac, having seen it firsthand yesterday. Thanks so much for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ, and enjoy that front row seat to the madness from Chicago. You can get more analysis of the NCAA tournament right now on the college basketball YouTube page. Subscribe by scanning that QR code on your screen right now. We've got to hit a quick break, but when we return, we check in with things in our nation's capital, breaking down those matchups next. Stay with us. We're back here on CBS Sports HQ, where yesterday's games did not disappoint, and the madness continues in the round of 16 from Capital One Arena in the nation's capital. Here's a look at what's on tap tonight, arguably the most compelling matchup of the Sweet 16. St. John's and Duke going at it, and then UConn and Michigan State will be our nightcap. Both games on CBS. We have boots on the ground in D.C. Zach Peerless joins us live here on CBS Sports HQ for more on what to expect. So great to see you. Let's go ahead and start with Duke here, Zach. On the shoulders of Cameron Boozer, they look poised for a second straight Elite Eight appearance, but first they'll see a St. John's team that is very hard to count out right now.
Absolutely. I think this is the best game of the Sweet 16. Just when you look at the paths the teams have taken to get here, you think about Duke and the star freshman and Cam Boozer, who is just absolutely tremendous. And on the other side, you have a really experienced St. John's team. Lots of transfers. Their top 7 scorers are transfers. This is going to be a really tough game, a really physical game. And I really am excited to see the matchups and what John Shire and Rick Pitino pull out of their bag in terms of strategies and adjustments.
Let's talk about that physicality, because St. John's in particular brings a lot of it. We've seen it on full display all tournament long. How much could that toughness disrupt Duke and Boozer's rhythm tonight?
Yeah, I think that is probably the biggest question here. You look at St. John's, and these guys have been in school for a while. Everyone in their rotation, except for their point guard, is at least 6'5". Bryce Hopkins is a guy really strong, just really good athlete, and obviously a lot of experience there. The Big East Player of the Year, Zuby Ejiofor. They have a lot of options to throw at Cameron Boozer. They have a lot of height. They have a lot of different ways that they can rotate and change their defense. Cameron Boozer, it's going to be really interesting to see how he is used, how he adjusts to that physicality. He has been so good all year, and I think almost a little bit underappreciated because he's not the shoo-in #1 overall pick. he's averaging 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. No one's done that in 40 years. So you look at a guy who is just a complete package. He's had to play a little bit more center recently with Patrick Ngongba out, but he's back. We could get Isaiah Evans back, which would be huge because St. John's likes to bring that full court press. So it's going to be really important that from the jump, Duke establishes that it can be physical, it can hold up against some really good players who have been here before and are going to try to disrupt this younger Duke team.
That one's all eyes will be on that one, that's for sure. I'm glad that you said it's got to be the best of this Sweet 16. I agree with you. 7:10 Eastern Time on CBS. Let's go ahead and get to the second matchup. Zeroing in on Michigan State here, chasing its 13th Elite Eight appearance under Tom Izzo. What is it, Zach, about Izzo coach teams this time of year that makes them so dangerous?
It's unbelievable. I think on Selection Sunday, the first thing every team looks at is who are we playing first? And the second thing that they look at is Michigan State anywhere near us? Because we don't want to see that. They do the things that are important at such a basic level. They rebound the ball really well. They have really good point guard play, and especially this year with Jeremy Fears, who might be the best passer in the entire sport. They can push the ball when they need to, and their players get so much better. In an era where a lot of players leave and a lot of coaches leave, Tom Izzo's been there forever, 31 years as the head coach. Players know what they're going to get out of him. He is going to push them hard, but they are going to develop over the course of 4 years or 3 years or however long they stay. They're staying. You look at this lineup, a lot of guys who just get better, not only throughout the season, but season after season. Carson Cooper is a guy who I think we should talk about a lot as just a tremendous developmental story, developmental success. He can shoot the three a little bit. That was not really part of his profile earlier in his career. So that combination of Jeremy Fears and Carson Cooper, you throw in Cohen Carr, who could fill an entire show with highlight dunks, and you get just a really good team that does the basics well, but also has all the pieces that you need, the shooting, the athleticism, the toughness, and you get a juggernaut every March.
Well, if UConn is going to have any success, they may need a little bit more consistency from key pieces on that roster like Solo Ball. What specifically do you need to see from him tonight for them to advance to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, the three-point shooting has to be there, especially from him and really from this entire team. They've struggled a little bit, but Solo Ball, he's the guy who, if it gets started with him, watch out. He's 1 for 14 from three over his past 3 games. He is definitely struggling, but it's interesting. You get to see these guys for just a few minutes yesterday, the day before the games, and Solo Ball looked really confident. He was shooting the ball well, and I know that it was just practice, but he looked loose. He looked confident. He was really upbeat with the media, and who knows, he could play another bad game, but I do think that it was a positive sign that it doesn't seem like these recent struggles have really affected him otherwise. Again, shot the ball really well, looked like he was just having a fun time being there in this moment. And I trust, we talked a little bit about Tom Izzo. I trust Dan Hurley to have his guys ready to go, and that'll start with his very, very talented point guard.
Well, get the popcorn ready. The madness continues. You got to get in the car and get to Capital One Arena. Enjoy the game. Zach, we appreciate you joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. Both of these matchups from Cap One in our nation's capital get underway on CBS beginning at 7:10 Eastern Time, when we will see St. John's and Duke go head-to-head, and then our nightcap, 9:45 Eastern Time. It's UConn and Michigan State.